I feel like we've said this before. Is that, like, we've asked the question, is this the year? Is this the year where Linux really gets its foothold? And just this week, we got a couple of stories, although one of the stories I feel like I had heard before. But just this week, we got a couple of stories of companies starting to really wake up and take Linux as a platform seriously. And both of these companies are gaming companies. The first one, well, I mean, not in any particular order, but the first one that happens to be in the show notes is GOG, also known as Good Old Games, also known as the company that used to be owned by CD Projekt Red, but they sold it to one of the founders for, I think it was $25 million. And, just to make sure everybody understands exactly what GOG is, it is a storefront, it is a launcher, and it is completely 100% DRM free, which is one of the reasons that I think that it's awesome. But now they basically said that Linux is the next major frontier for gaming, and they're working on making a native client for it. Here's exactly what they said. GOG is our desktop client and ecosystem hub, a place where players manage their libraries, connect with the community, and access features that go far beyond a store. Today, it delivers an experience on Windows and Mac OS. I did not know that it was on Mac OS. But Linux is the next major frontier. We're looking for a senior engineer who will shape GOG Galaxy's architecture, tooling, and development standards with Linux in mind from day one. At the same time, GOG Galaxy is a long-lived product with a large and complex C++ code base. Okay, my eyes glazed over at the end there because I was like, I don't know what he's talking about. I know it's a programming language, but I don't know much about it. Like the most programming I ever did was like BASIC back in high school, and then a little bit of Python and a little bit of Swift, but I don't know anything about C++. So with all that being said, we're now getting other stores shipping Linux versions, or at least they plan to ship a Linux version. Is this a sign of things to come? Do you guys feel like it's a canary in the coal mine? Are we going to start seeing other stores shipping Linux versions so that people can run whatever Linux distribution they want, and they can play their games not just through Steam? Kerry, what do you think about that, man?
Yeah, so it's... I don't know if it's going to be the year. It's a terrible year for it to be the year of Linux desktop.
Hard disagree. It's a perfect year.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be a good year for it to gain. I feel like the percentage of that Linux already has via Steam is actually fairly good when you consider that there's like a billion Windows 10 and Windows 11 things out there, like a billion. So Linux is 3% of that, I guess. And that sounds like a big number still. Like, I think that they deserve some credit. So I hope that I for sure we're going to see inroads and stuff, but I still feel that Valve is genuinely the pioneer of this. And insofar as like the Steam Deck really establishing this, and the Steam Machine making it a little bit further, and as they keep on getting inroads, it'll be interesting to see the other providers get in there. But ultimately, I still kind of fall back to what Russ said a few podcasts ago of like that 8% number before things really start to accelerate. So I still think that this year generally is going to be like this foundational thing, but nothing that people are going to tangentially feel this year.
Yeah, go ahead, Russ.
I would say this is just kind of a little bit of a bump, if anything, because I was looking up while you were talking, but Steam dominates the PC like digital distribution marketplace by like 75%, right? And then they estimate GOG's somewhere around 10 to maybe 15% altogether. So not
higher
bad,
than I thought.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But then you got to remember that within that market share, how many people are going to be using Linux as well? Like how many are going to be base GOG customers, or else just Linux-based users who are going to move over from Steam to GOG? Yeah, I'm not really sure. The nice thing about GOG that I will give them credit for is that, you can go and download all your files offline and then just play them directly from there. And that's what I do. I don't use GOG Galaxy. It's kind of clunky on Windows. And so many of those have a Linux version already embedded in there. So the games themselves, if there is a Linux version, you can just download them directly. So once they get a client going, I think it'll be a pretty seamless experience. It's just a matter of getting that front end rolling. And I think that's going to be pretty cool. But again, I think it won't have that huge impact on this year compared to just the way that Steam is. Probably, like if I was thinking about how are we going to move Linux forward, I would put all my eggs into the Steam basket just because they have such a big market share.
I'd agree with that. I think GOG itself is not going to be the thing that moves the needle, but I think GOG itself, maybe to Bill's point, is the canary in the coal mine where like it's not just Valve that's pushing this forward. There are other companies that are kind of, for lack of a better term, I'm going to say like hopping on the bandwagon, right? I don't want to put that on GOG, who has been a pioneer in the past, but certainly Steam in this case was the trailblazer, right? For like, is this a good year for Linux desktop? I think I came around to what you were saying, Kerry, that this is more of a foundational year. But what I was taking, what you were saying to mean initially was like, this is not the best year because of hardware prices and Rampapocalypse and stuff like that, right?
Yes, correct. Like, so this is not a very good year to celebrate or launch that at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what I was going to say was that said, the what's impressive about Linux's growth in Steam in these last 3 years is that it has grown while the like total addressable market for Steam has also grown, right? Like it's been growing like gangbusters. So like we went from probably, I want to say around 30 million concurrent users to 40 million concurrent users in those last 3 years. Like each month or each few months came with a peak, a new peak. And throughout that time, Linux has also grown. So if the total addressable market stagnates during that time, but we also have Steam Machine and Steam Frame and Steam Deck and all of this stuff, then maybe this is also an opportunity for Linux to have a really big year.
So I was going to add to that I think that this year in particular is a year where maybe a lot of people aren't interested in buying new hardware just because of the prices and whatnot. And so maybe, the solution will be like, I'm thinking to myself back in, 10, 15 years ago where I had this old Windows laptop and it was kind of junk and I had moved on to something else. But I'm like, hey, now that I don't really care about this and I don't really need it, let's put Linux on it and try that out and see how it goes, right? And so that might, like that experimental phase where we're just kind of thinking, how can we improve our gaming lives without buying new stuff, I feel like the solution in many ways will be Linux based at that point. And so that might be the resurgence we see without people having to buy new hardware.
I don't know if you guys have been keeping up on it or not, but there has been some like other wine stuff and DXVK type of stuff going on in the background insofar as like DirectX 6 to DirectX 12, to Vulkan, sorry, and DX7 to Vulkan, which has historically not really been something that they were looking for. So it's like kind of really in DX9, DX11 territory. So insofar as like good old games, that's like one area where they would kind of critically need more support than just what Wine has already accomplished. So I would like if GOG was doing that end as well as just, other things to make it work better. But I mean, there's already like Heroic is already pretty good for attaching to GOG and getting your stuff and downloading and using GameScope and all the other stuff. So there's already like third-party stuff that's pretty solid. So I would rather them work on the middleware layer a little bit more rather than so much like thinking about a front end.
I think one of the reasons why they would want to have their front end be Linux native is because right now, like you just said, Kerry, if people have games in their GOG library, then what they typically will do if they're playing on Linux is they will use Heroic Launcher or some other way to, or Lutris or something like that in order to give them access to those games. And that means that when you go to launch your game, you don't see the other games that are on sale. You don't see what's what other games you could be playing. And that means that GOG is, they're selling you those games, and you're able to play those games DRM free, which is awesome. I think a lot of people in the open source community really appreciate the idea that it's DRM free, and these are games that you have purchased and that you actually own in perpetuity, which is fantastic. But then if you never go back to their store, it makes it hard for them to quote unquote stay afloat. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that like they're in danger of going out of business or anything, but it's definitely something to consider.
The one thing I didn't know if we were going to pivot over to another topic. The only thing that I wanted to mention is if you have a Prime membership, Amazon Prime membership.
Yes.
If you go to gaming.amazon.com, they have GOG and Amazon have been like tag teaming like crazy. So I think I gained like, I don't know, 100, 200 GOG games that Amazon has just been giving me for free, like, for free, as a part of my Prime subscription as a freebie type of thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of them have been really awesome. So, I mean, I've not really bought much on GOG, but I think my library is like 500 large, and like 99% of it is free. So that just like, these are other things that are out there. Obviously, Epic Games has given a lot of free games as well, and then you can use Heroic Launcher for that. But this is just to tie in there is don't forget to look at these avenues where you can claim games on GOG and possibly start building a library there and start taking a look at what they have to offer.
Yeah, I recommend going once a month. I usually just go on there once a month, and usually there's new games to claim. And then with that cadence, set a reminder or whatever, and you can build a pretty big library. And some classics, all the Civ games and Fallout games have been released on GOG for free over the past 6 months, no problem.
Very cool. And those are games that don't require a whole lot of power.
Yeah.
So if you can't buy, 32 gigs of DDR5 RAM to put in your PC because you're not a billionaire, well, then you're going to be okay with 8 gigs of VRAM playing games on GOG.
So I was talking to Wario64 today, and he's like, "Oh, I'm putting together a new PC soon." And I'm like, "Oh, I guess you've been getting some of your deals." He's like, "Oh yeah, I've been buying things." And he showed me this deal from September, which was 16 gigs of DDR5 memory for like $12. And I was like,
no way.
12?
Yeah, you gotta say it's like September 5th. I gotta share the link with you. It's like I'm looking at the price and I'm like, man, you could be making a bunch of money with this.
Yeah.
That's insane. Amazing.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I did mention that it's not just GOG that's doing it. And I think that I just looked in the show notes, and it's not in the show notes anywhere, or at least I couldn't find it. But GeForce Now is shipping a native Linux client. And what I was saying before is not necessarily that GOG is going to push things forward, but more, is it a sign that things are already pushing forward? And I think a combination of GOG making a native Linux client and GeForce Now making a native Linux client, I think that that's really significant. Russ, you use GeForce Now all the time. Are you excited that they're going to be putting out a native Linux client?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. There already is a native Steam app that came out last year, and that's really handy, and that's good too. You can always just use a browser, but I do like the idea of having a native client like that. I think, when you're talking about pushing it further, the one store that we would need to move over to Linux to really move the user base would be the Microsoft store. Like they put that up there, you know what I mean? And that'll be a big one. Obviously, they will never do that, but I think that would be pretty awesome to have all your Windows games available on Linux through Microsoft.
There's an interesting thing. So I don't know if you guys saw it. So I created a Blue Sky account, and I had a Mastodon account, but I now have a way. I'm trying out a thing where I can post once to all of them. So which has been the thing that I've been dragging my feet on. In any event, Tim Sweeney was like, Steam is bad. They will take 30% of your money all the time. And I'm like, well, actually, no, they don't. And here are some reputed sellers that you can buy, and Valve gets 0% of them. And a lot of people have been pushing. They're like, yeah, but Epic, you can download GOG. You can't download GOG on Steam. And I'm like, all right, but it would be kind of cool if like Steam. I know Steam wouldn't do it, but it's like there's this area where Linux would just be a lot better if Steam was just like, actually, come on in and do some stuff. But I don't know if anyone would like that, but it would sure be awesome.
I don't understand what you mean. Like, already, I could take a game that I bought on GOG and add it to Steam as a non-Steam game.
Right. But yeah, so these are people saying in Epic Games Launcher, you can download GOG via Epic and launch GOG through the Epic Launcher to then do stuff on GOG, and they don't stop that. And that's basically what they're saying is like, I'm not saying I want to open up GOG through Steam. I would rather have like a fundamental integration layer that, the supposed Xbox hybrid thing of whatever that is going to materialize to, of this magical land of, wherever you want to go, you'll have your stuff, and however that's going to materialize.
It's that we were a society meme.
I mean, there's a lot of people that are either in agreement with me or just telling me really mean things, and that's all that it is. But I did see someone mention that, like, Epic's so open that you can just download GOG, and I'm like, all right, I don't know how valuable that is, but it'd be cooler if, especially for this Linux side. That's the only reason I bring it up.
The thing I was thinking about, like, when maybe it was Bill, when Bill was talking, is like, what would be cool is if, like, Steam did play nice, and all the platforms, right, did play nice such that, like, the store and the platform were separated. Yeah, it was when Bill was talking about, like, oh, you won't get to see the Epic or the GOG ads for these other games. And I was like, I would like that too for Steam. Like, I would like to maybe, like, what if I just want to use Play Night on Windows, for example, and I want Play Night to launch my Steam game without necessarily launching Steam. Obviously it would have to launch like Steam DRM, but like maybe not launch like the client and it's just the DRM and the game.
Like have a helper application.
Yeah.
Because like when we got the Xbox LIX, and you go to launch a Steam game and Steam is not already running, the first thing that happens is Steam opens up. And then it opens up the little advertisement for whatever, like, games are being advertised right now. And you're like, okay, now I got to close that. And then I got to tap this. And then I got to open up, tap on the game icon to get into the game because it has to launch Steam first. I get what you're saying, Rich. It would be really cool if instead I could launch that and it could just be a little helper application in the background. But I don't see that ever happening from any of them. Epic won't do it. Steam won't do it. Nobody will do it.
If Microsoft was reading the room, they would do it. But no, instead they're going to have AI helpers that will clutter your screen, and your whole viewport will be nothing but AI stuff, and you'll have this much of whatever you're looking at, and that's it.
Yeah, I noticed you wanted to launch this game. Would you like me to write up a report for you?
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, if anyone could do it, it's Microsoft. Microsoft could definitely pull that off and not have to worry too much, right? So that would be smart of them.
Like the supposed hybrid, right? Like Microsoft has the muscle where they could just be like, hey, actually, yes, you can have your stores and we can totally advertise on those things, but you kind of have to like integrate better into this. I don't know if it would happen, but Steam... It would be nice if Steam was so benevolent that they were like, hey, other launchers actually integrate into this way and we'll figure out a way to do whatever. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let us know what you guys think about, is this the year for Linux gaming? Let us know in the comments section down below.